Welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine with Pick and Pay, in an unusual location for Dan Really Likes Wine, not as you can see in my usual cellar, but instead in the Cavern, and that's Cavern with a capital C. It's not just a cave, but it is a fairly well-known and well-celebrated resort that sits in the Drakensberg. And I'm with a really appropriate person to drink wine with, because I am with a French South African, so to speak, because Bryan Habana, although you're very much a South African national treasure, you've got a fair amount of time in France behind you, and I'd like to think some of that time was spent experimenting with and discovering wine in France.
It was, Dan, I really enjoy my red wines, and obviously sort of south of France, the rosés are sort of more the thing, especially, summertimes. It is a pretty easy on the tongue drink to drink, with a block of ice or two, really goes down incredibly well. So, some fantastic, red wine farms in and around the Cavern area that I got to visit. But yeah, I could have potentially done a little bit more, to be brutally honest.
But it's a different culture in France, because we tend to think of wine maybe as a special occasion drink in South Africa, whereas in France it's very much every day, it's very much part of the culture.
It's so much part of the culture. I almost want to say it's part of a every meal type culture, to be brutally honest. And obviously for the French, and you get accustomed to their culture and way of living, and for them, lunches are lunches, so it's 12 to 2. We had one local bank in Toulon that always closed between 12 to 2, which made being a rugby player really difficult, because 12 to 2 was potentially only the time between training that you could actually do things. So they take really long lunches, and their long lunches sort of encompasses starters, mains and desserts, and 9 times out of 10 involves a glass of wine of some form, whether it be white or rosé or red, depending on the season. So it's a culture, we really enjoy it, because in the beginning it was potentially frustrating, but it's a culture we began to appreciate because they really enjoy their meal times, and obviously with that, getting a good bottle of some really good wine in.
We've known each other for a long time. I've seen the Habana sweet tooth in action. You do like your sugar. Was it an easy path into wine? Was it something that at first you thought, oh gee, this is not really for me?
Yeah, I think having a sweet tooth is one thing, just from a eating point of view. I think for me, having a good red wine was always something I really enjoyed. I'll never forget. I was going out with my now wife, then girlfriend, and we were visiting friends in George, and we were drinking a cheap bottle of red wine, which I'm not going to mention the name of. We were sort of not the students, but we were sort of at that level, and I got to a point that I actually didn't realize what was going on around me. And my wife had cut a foot, and I was going on in conversation, because that cheapish red wine had got to me fairly quickly. The following evening, we were at a brilliant dinner on Plain Court, drinking a bottle of fantastic Early House wine, of which I drank a few glasses and was able to converse with my wife the whole evening. So it sort of made me understand that if you do drink a good red wine, you can actually enjoy it, and not let other people look at you and enjoy themselves having fun at you. So obviously the sweet tooth, and from a palate tasting point of view, you sort of need to find something that you really enjoy. I'm sort of more the Merlot, Cab Sav type person, which again, South Africa has quite a bit of. Getting to travel to the likes of France and Argentina, and getting the Malbecs in is also not too bad an option.
Yeah, I would have been a hopeless rugby player, because I'd have just done wine tours the whole time and never got onto the field. You come from a country that makes some extraordinary wine. We produce brilliant rugby players and brilliant wine, probably our two greatest exports. And we've got a couple of bottles here, just for a little taste, for no more than just to see what you think, and have a little conversation around them. And I've chosen this one in particular. The Cavern here has got a terrific cellar. I've had a look around. There's a whole range of stuff. Until last night, there was a collection of 2015 Paul Sour. Sadly, some guys got here and ahead of me, drank it all. But there's a whole lot of Waterford. There's some Meerlust. There's some old Hartenberg. There's a really nice selection. And I've chosen this particular bottle. It's a slightly quirky combination. It's a Petit Verdot Tannat. But I've chosen because it's from Glencarlo. And I chose Glencarlo because I couldn't find Backsburg. Okay. And I have very vivid memories of watching probably even better footwork than you have in the rugby field. Okay. Bryan Habana at my wedding, what was it, 8 years ago now?
8 years ago now.
With a glass or two of wine, and burning up the dance floor. So this is the alternative I found.
It is, I'm happy with an alternative. That was a very good night. You did well to not hurt your feet on those plates that were thrown on the floor, Mr. Nickel. But yeah, some really good memories. So looking forward to tasting this one.
All right, so this is a combination. It's a Tannat Petit Verdot. So 2 grapes we don't see a huge amount of, and when we do, it's usually a little splash in a blend. Both grapes with a good dose of French history. I haven't tried this at all. I love the intensity of the colour. It's nice and deep and dark
Very
and brooding.
deep, very dark.
What do you think of
Soft.
that?
It's not incredibly hard on the palate. It's pretty flavoursome, if I can call it that.
Can indeed.
It goes on easy. I like this.
So you'd be happy to drink this?
I'd be happy to drink this.
So on the Dan
we won't call you on the buffalo on your right hand.
It's inverted in the camera,
Okay.
absolutely. But on the Dan really likes wine scale, we're very simple. There are 2 types of wine. There's one you like, that's a good wine. There's one you don't, that's a bad wine.
Yeah.
You like this, it's a good wine.
It's a good wine.
I like it towards it. It's a real quirkiness to it. I love that inkiness of the Petit Verdot that's coming through, and that tonight can have that sort of that spice and quirkiness to it, and together, yeah, I really like this. And the fact that we found this, we've come to a hotel in the middle of the Drakensberg. There's barely
After
a
doing
road
100
here.
kilometres, you forgot that.
100 kilometres in 4 days. We've been trekking for 4 days. We could probably drink anything right now, but this is.
I'm definitely not going to be putting this on my feet because it actually tastes so good. It feels like I can always throw it on my feet and make my blisters better.
I'll find some other wine to do that job. I think it's called paraffin. So there we go. So this is Glencarlo. It's right next door to where I got married. So good memories from that area. Glencarlo's got some beautiful Chardonnay at the moment. They've got some Syrah on that Court Rocks of theirs, drinking nicely, and also an art gallery. So if you're in that area, drop by next door to see the statues of me at Backsburg after my wedding. So that's a quirky one. The other one I've got, and I've enjoyed that. I'm going to hang on to that for a little bit later. The other one I've chosen quite deliberately. And it's a conversation you and I have had over the last little while. You've come to the end of your rugby career. Yeah, possibly it wasn't entirely on your own terms, but as you look back over the whole of it, it was an extraordinary career. You delighted us in World Cups and internationals and all manner of jerseys. And I think it's fair to say Bryan Habana is a national treasure. And when it comes to wine, Pinotage is our national treasure.
It is.
So I've found some bush vine Pinotage. This was kind of behind a cupboard in the back of the cellar. I'm not sure if they've meant to be selling this. It's nothing I've ever drunk before, but they got a label of Here Be Dragons, which kind of speaks to that brave and fearless Havana approach to rugby in particular and life in general.
Happy days.
And was it something when you were maybe in France, when you were overseas, that you've always been a great ambassador for South Africa, that you'd tell people about South African wine, celebrate the fact that we make some pretty good stuff?
I actually had quite a few heated debates with quite a few Frenchmen, sort of saying that our wine is much better than theirs. Especially when you get to like the Bordeaux regions where there is some fantastic red wines. And I was fortunate enough to have a few, and you're able to compare it to, again, I think our wine production in South Africa is of a remarkably high standard. Globally we know that, but being able to be in a position in France where they potentially at some point make equally good red wines, not quite our Pinotages and our Merlots that we have here, but some really, really good reds. But you can tell them, listen, yes, your red wine is not bad on a scale of 1 to 10, but wait till you get to South Africa, get to a region like Stellenbosch, Franschhoek, where in the space of 40-kilometer radius, you have some of the best wine experiences potentially in the world that you're ever going to experience. So I did get quite a few aggressive French wine drinkers believing their wine was better, but I think that's more because I was potentially speaking English to them and couldn't speak to them in their own particular French language. But again, I think we need to be proud of things that can be celebrated in South Africa, and I think our wine market, our wine regions are really superb, and we have a massive export of wines globally, and when you can value that in terms of going overseas and experiencing a high standard of wines in another country that is also got a pretty decent set of wines, you actually become proud of being South African. I think to showcase that and voice that, even though it does get you in 1 or 2 heated arguments, especially later on in the night when the wine potentially tastes a little bit like Coke. I think it was brilliant to be able to also know and compare the different types of taste you get within South Africa compared to the Bordeaux region of France, or a little bit further north in just south of Paris, and then down south where in South Africa rosé is potentially not a massive thing, but on the Côte d'Azur, rosé is the standard go-to. So. Yeah, it's good, and again, I'm sort of grateful that I got to experience that opportunity, and we're now at a point where my wife sort of expects that I pour her some form of champagne, rosé, or red wine at night when we have our meals.
Well, I think Toulon inadvertently explained it best. They had a nice platform of French players, but then brought in some South African brilliance just to complete the package. And the same thing is with South African wine. I think it has that sparkle, that degree of excellence. So I've got no idea what this is going to taste like, but it is
that does scare me, seeing that Dan really likes wine.
Well, simply because I haven't had this one before, but it's a bush wine pinotage, so it'll be old and character-filled vine. The colour certainly softer, slightly more cherryish than that previous one. And this is Tormentoso, if I'm not mistaken. I think these are the Man Vintners guys who put this together. Out in Stellenbosch, that farm they got it at Wood Nectar. Very different nose.
Very different nose. It's definitely a lot stronger. It is good though. Different taste. This one.
Yeah, it kind of subscribes to. I think you find a lot of people are kind of, I like pinotage, or pinotage should be thrown away. There's never really a middle ground.
I don't think this one should be thrown away.
No, thrown down a throat perhaps.
Yeah, maybe thrown down a few throats.
And it's actually, it's got a younger feel than I thought it would. It's a 2013, it's had 6 years. It doesn't taste
younger
like
than both our first kids, so
exactly. So the kind of wine we need is an anaesthetic, because we have to watch Frozen for the 17th time. No, it's definitely enjoyable. Out of the two, I'd probably lean towards the first one. But I do like this. I actually think this could age a bit more.
I think it can age a bit more. It's certainly a little bit sharp on the nose from a small point of view, and you definitely taste a little bit more as soon as it touches the tongue. But it's definitely not a pinotage I potentially want to throw down the drain.
Well, we've actually tasted. We've done a little bit of tasting before, and we found a couple of, how do we put this delicately, entry-level wines. We're keeping those ones for Brian O'Driscoll, who's only got a palate for Guinness. We give him anything, and he don't mind telling the difference at all.
After the second Guinness, Brian, you can get Brian any. Potentially we can even. I'm quite sure they have box wine here, but if we
find some,
try find some.
Two very pleasant South African wines in the company of an extremely pleasant South African. Before we let you head off and get back to the gym for full time today. Is there a particular wine memory for Bryan Habana over the years? A particular wine or a wine estate visit, something in the wine world that always rings a bell?
I think for me that there have been a few over the course of getting afforded the opportunity to go to many different wine cellars. I'm trying to pull out one goodie.
At the risk of alienating all the others, so be very careful here, Brian.
At the risk of alienating all the others, I think just because of the occasion, we was just before one of the Ernie House Invitationals, sort of back in 2016, and we got to go up and experience a cave where Ernie's British Open trophy was in, and just got to experience the estate from a view, but also get an inner feel of. So I'm trying to stay away from the name, but sort of get a feel of wines and what another sporting legend of South Africa has a love for, and Ernie has a fantastic love for wine, and in his. To his credit, he's produced some really good wines, but I think the whole experience of having this room wine cellar of memorabilia that was pretty special, along with some pretty amazing wines in it, and then sort of getting to taste it with the big man was pretty special.
And that really, I think, is what wine is all about. It's what we're all about in the show. Wine is so much more than just the glass. It's the experience, the people you drink it with, the food you eat it with. So,
and you're right, man. That's I think also where wine comes. There's wines for everyone. Whether you're a red or a white or rosé, you can pair it and mix it very differently. So, You have people that potentially entertain, and there's wine pairings, or for me that's pretty easy. That has a really good wine that he has locked up somewhere, but that you can take out and enjoy with friends, and over a glass, those memories that get made are really special. So I think I really like Dan really likes wine.
Bryan, cheers. Congratulations on a wonderful 4 days. You've got through something you weren't too sure of, much like myself, and so the wine is rich reward, and much like we celebrate South African wine, so we celebrate everything you've done, and thank you for it. And it's great to see somebody as chiselled and athletic as Bryan Habana still enjoys a couple of glasses of wine, enhanced by his French experience, but as he said in not quite so many words, the French wine's not bad, but South African wine takes the cake. Cheers.